MontgomeryMediaGroup.tv. Video replay is available on YouTube, the African American Shopping Network channel. Comments may be sent via email to montgomerybusiness@hotmail.com.
Hi, I'm your host, Larry Montgomery. This is the Black Authors Book Show. This week's presentation is coming from myself, and the book short story I have to offer is entitled The Reckoning. The story of a sheriff who had a bad day. To tell you a little bit about this book, Sheriff William Rogers, better known as Big Bill, his best and worst day came and went on the same day, the day he almost killed his most hated foe. If not for the hard work and determination of his hoped-for son-in-law, he would have gotten away with his first unlawful hate crime. Follow Big Bill as his lust for blood and self-appointed race purification leads him and his hoped-for son-in-law-to-be down the road of exposure, shame, and disgrace, right in the middle of Main Street America, just as his lifelong desired president makes his first speech in the town square. Well, that sounds interesting, especially in these days and times. Let's go right to chapter 1. I think we'll maybe give about 5 minutes of this and see what you think. Chapter 1. The New Guy. It was 7:30 a.m. on Monday morning at Frank's Eatery, table number 6. It was 7:30 a.m. Monday morning when Jody Rogers clocked in for her shift at the Eatery, a staple in the downtown area. Frank's Downtown Eatery and Luncheonette had been a cornerstone in the town for over 100 years. A converted slave auction house had been torn down and a new hotel built there just before Lincoln became president. Once he had died, the place was converted to a whorehouse and bar until torn down again and replaced with a mobile home-like restaurant. It was a hot June morning, and Jody had not gotten used to the early shift. She preferred the late night shift when she could see all of her friends from the steel mill when they got off from work, and again when they returned from partying or drinking down the street at the local roadhouse. So, she grabbed a large cup of black coffee and took a big swig and ran out of the dining room onto the dining room floor to wait her tables. She had 3, tables 6, 7, and 11. Table 11 was a booth that sat 6, so she always kept an eye on that one. That table's tips could make her whole day worthwhile. Jody was a rather short, young white woman with long brown hair. She kept it in a ponytail most of the time. She was just turning 22 years old, and for most accounts, she was considered feisty and strong-minded. She was still going to night school after getting pregnant in her senior year of high school and having to drop out to care for her son, Travis. To her father's dismay, she never married the baby's daddy, Harold Jenkins. now a local sheriff's deputy. She always felt he was too immature for fatherhood and marriage. So while Jody works during the day and goes to school part time at night, she keeps in the back of her mind that someday Travis will grow up to be a famous country singer and she'll move to Nashville to mother over him and live the good life long into her old age. In the meantime, she plans to get her GED and apply for a job at the steel mill to keep her bills paid and a roof over their heads. She is independent minded. The baby's father, Harold, nor her father, Big Bill, contribute to her or the baby's needs. That way, no one has anything to say about what she does or doesn't, do, or when she does or doesn't do something. The first table she waited on this morning was table number 6. Hostess Yolanda waved and got Jody's attention as she gulped down a few more sips of coffee behind the cash register and pointed to her table number 7 where a guest was already seated. As Jody approached the table, she could not help but notice the young black gentleman seated at table number 6. She became so engrossed at checking him out, she didn't realize that there was no one seated at table number 7. And the person seated at table number 6 was at number 7. He just moved himself over. When she got up to the table and looked around and noticed that there was no one at table number 7, she looked back at the black man and he waved her over and said, "I'm sorry, I was seated over there, but the sun was really bright there, so I moved over here. All right?" Jody looked at him as if he was a ham sandwich and she hadn't eaten in a week. She managed to catch herself and responded, "No problem. What can I get you?" she said. The young man stood about 6 foot 4 inches and weighed 225 pounds. He was brown skinned in color with a very muscular physique, a thick dark mustache, and a clean shaved head. His suit was dark blue and his shoes were half brown boots with a dark brown toe tip. He had a light brown dress shirt with French cuffs and a yellow and black necktie. His smile was so perfect and bright she thought she was looking at a Sears catalog model. He had dark brown, hazel eyes, and as he looked at her, she thought he could read her mind and she became rather hot and bothered for a moment. And then the hot flash subsided and she forced her mouth to move and say, "Can I get you anything?" He looked at her again and said, "I would like a little information and a large cup of coffee. I'm new around here and I don't do mornings very well." She laughed and said, "Me either." Then they both laughed, and Judy relaxed and said, "We have a special. We call it a map and a cup of coffee. Can I get you one?" The man said, "Yes, please, and make that coffee black." She started to turn and walk away, and under her breath she said, "All night long," and walked off. As Jody walked to the back of the counter, Sheriff's Deputy Harold Jenkins and her father, Sheriff William Rogers, walked in and took their regular seats at table number 11. The two men walked by the young black man and looked at him, but did not say a word as they passed his table. Deputy Sheriff Harold Jenkins was a member of the county law enforcement agency, while Sheriff William Rogers was the sheriff of the neighboring village sheriff's department, both in law enforcement, but each working in separate jurisdictions.
You are experiencing America's only live streaming showcase for Black authors online. This is the Black Authors Book Show, a presentation of the Authors Corner. Online. We will be right back. The Black Authors Book Show is looking for Black authors to showcase their latest projects and get the word out about their book. We will put you in front of 2 million readers with each podcast, for less than you pay for lunch. Hooray, and schedule your live book show today. Email us at montgomerybusiness@hotmail.com. And we are back. This show is sponsored by the Authors Corner. Online and is a production of the Montgomery Media Group. TV. To subscribe and show your support, email us at montgomerybusiness@hotmail.com. Thank you and God bless.
Sheriff William Rogers, better known as Big Bill, is a 40-year veteran recently being voted into the office of sheriff at Village Hall. He is a 68-year-old white man, slightly overweight, with a very thick mustache and a pot belly. Big Bill is divorced with one child, Jody, and one grandchild, Travis. He lives alone. Harold Jenkins, a local boy, is 28 years old and a member of the county sheriff's department for the last 6 years. He is single with one son, Travis. Harold is stands 5'11", weighs 185 pounds, blonde hair with blue eyes and a crew cut hairstyle. When the young black man looked up and noticed the two sheriff's officers, he waited until they took their seats and then slowly got up and walked over to their table. When he got there, both men looked at him and said, both men looked at him and he said, "Excuse me, sirs, I am new in town and was wondering if either one of you could tell me how I could get to the courthouse from here." Big Bill looked at him and said, "What, you looking to pay a traffic ticket or child support?" The young man looked at him and then responded and said, "Neither, sir, but I am looking to speak to Judge Harvey about a legal matter." That was when Deputy Jenkins looked up and said, 2 blocks south, 1 block north. The tallest building in the town square. You can't miss it. If you step out into the parking lot and look towards the sun, you'll see it." The young man smiled and thanked the men and walked back to his seat. By that time, Jody had returned to table number 6 with a cup of coffee and a map she had drawn. She handed them to the young man and laid the map on the table in front of him. But before he could say anything, she looked at him and said, "If you're not in a rush, just look at the map and give me a minute to take their orders. I won't be long, and then I'll be right back." Not long after Jody served the two sheriffs, they left on separate errands, and she returned to the young black man's table. She said, "I'm sorry it took a lot longer than I thought it would, but if you look at the map I drew, you will see Judge Harvey's office is on the other side of town in City Hall. The only thing you will see 2 blocks south and 1 block north is the county jail. Those two always with the stupid jokes. Why they are like that, I don't know. But take care of yourself and be careful around them too. Not everyone around here is as pleasant as them two. The young man shook his head and said, I checked my GPS, and thanks for the update. I saw where they were staring at me, but what can you say? By the way, thanks, my name is Carrie Franks. Like what does a hot dog bun do? When Jody heard that statement, she thought for a second, and then she burst out laughing and said, well, that is one way to get people to remember your name. He paid his check and left her a $5 tip and left. 9 a.m. at the City Hall building, Judge Jeffrey Harvey's office. As soon as Carrie Franks stepped into Judge Harvey's office, there seemed to be an instant connection. The judge's secretary brought Carrie in, and he had him sit down at the judge's desk as the judge was on his telephone with his back to the desk. When Judge Harvey finished his call and turned around, he saw what looked like him 40 years earlier, but in brown skin, and he pointed to an old black and white photo of himself seated in that same chair over 40 years earlier, and the two marveled at it for several minutes. Carrie was wearing the same style outfit the judge had worn the day he passed the state bar. Had the photo been in color, as the judge explained, the color scheme would have been exactly the same. After a few minutes of reminiscing, Judge Harvey got down to the business at hand and said, Son, no, let me apologize for that comment. What I meant was, Mr. Franks, the reason I asked you to come down here and meet with me is simple. A dear friend of mine told me that he had a nice, smart, energetic young man whom he believed qualified for a sheriff position in my district. Now, he did not say a deputy sheriff or a marshal. He said a leadership position as an elected official in law enforcement. Here in this county, I have 2 positions. I see opportunities in for a person of your caliber if you're interested. One at the county level and the other at the village level. Of course, all I can do is mentor and guide you. I can't assure you that you will succeed or even be elected when time comes, but I can mentor you to be the best candidate you can be, and that I am willing to do. It is not going to be easy. Damn it, it is more than likely going to be goddamn hard as heck. But the people of this county need to move into the 21st century, and it is my job to help them do it, God willing. Judge Harvey continued and said, Now, let's not fool ourselves. There is a lot more riding on this effort than just doing the right thing. Hundreds of millions of federal and state tax dollars are at stake. Now, just because most people who understand these things just want to sit back and hope for the best does not mean that the best is coming to be exactly, no, the best is going to be exactly like they believe it should be. Later on today, I have scheduled a meeting with you, Sheriff Rogers of the Village Department of Justice, and County Sheriff Davis Matthews. Now, the four of us are going to sit down as long as it takes to figure out how we are going to make this work for everyone. And trust me, it will work for everyone by the time we finish. So can I count on you? Carrie smiled and said, "How can I say no to a man who will wear brown shoes to a job interview?" They both laughed. Well, I'm going to stop right there. And I'm stopping right there for a reason. I didn't want to be long-winded, but I did want to kind of give you an idea of how the story starts out. Almost 20 minutes. I'm sorry. Well, we'll stop right there, and thank you.
You have just experienced America's only live streaming showcase for Black authors online. This is the Black Authors Book Show. Join us again next week right here. This show was sponsored by the Authors Corner. Online and is a presentation of the Montgomery Media Group TV. To subscribe and support our effort, please email us at montgomerybusiness@hotmail.com. Thank you and God bless.